Support for Connecticut East this week comes from SCAD, the Southeastern Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, is offering a $3,500 sign-on bonus for licensed clinicians. Go to licensedclinicians.org to learn more. That's licensedclinicians.org. And Media Here and Now, a full-service content creation agency producing video, audio, podcasts, and digital content for social media, online and broadcast use for all types of businesses, organizations, and non-profits. Find out more at mediahereandnow.com. It's the equivalent of the Oscars of the restaurant and hospitality industry, the James Beard Awards. We sit down with David Standridge of the Shipwrights Daughter, who won a James Beard Best Chef Award earlier this year. Plus, we take a look at other stories making the headlines from around the region. This is Connecticut East This Week. Hello, I'm Brian Scott Smith. They're called the Oscars of the food industry, the James Beard Awards, and since 1991, these prestigious honours have recognised leaders in the culinary and food media industries and those in the broader food systems. Connecticut had two Best Chef finalists in this year's competition, and one of those two finalists, David Standridge, chef at the Mystic-based The Shipwrights Daughter, made it all the way to the top to be named Best Chef of the Northeast. I sat down with David and his wife Kathleen recently for the first joint interview they've done since David's win to talk about the award, working together as husband and wife, and their roles at the restaurant.
Lots of things to talk about with both of you. I suppose really the first thing let's get it out of the way. You got a little award earlier this year. Little one. David, tell us about it. It's the James Beard Award. It is actually, and all joking aside, it is the Oscars. It's considered the Oscars of the business. Just talk to us about it. What did it mean?
It means everything. I mean, especially in Connecticut where we don't have Michelin stars. Here, what we have is James Beard, and we haven't had a chef win a James Beard Award in Connecticut for 18 years. So it's a state that's been passed over by the foundation quite a bit, and when a lot of people feel like unjustly so. I'm sure there's some people who deserved it, but Connecticut is always thought of as a drive-through state, and not much to do here, and we're really trying to change that by making it a dining state, a place to come.
And I think we're certainly proving that is not the case, as you say, that is changing dramatically. Just to obviously give you your full title, you were Best Chef in the Northeast, which is a huge deal because I can't even begin to imagine how many restaurants are actually in the Northeast of America to be the best chef. Kathleen, talk to us about your side to this, because as we said, you are wine director and just recently creative director as well. You are a success in your own right as well. You are an award winner. You are a professionally qualified sommelier as well. How important is the wine side to the food side?
It's a funny story because I started this job writing for the social media for Instagram. Writing captions and explaining what we did because there was somebody who did that job previously. And when the position came open, I had worked in New York City, amazing restaurants like Isodi with another James Beard Award-winning chef, Rita Isodi. A lot of people know her from Via Carota and her partner from Buvette, but I also worked at some outstanding chefs like Michael White. So with that, I knew how to do it. I had worked in New York City as a salesperson for an importer, so I got to know the importing side of the business and was able to explain that. And when the wine position opened up, originally we didn't want to work together. There was no plan to ever do that. Okay. And it grew from there because I think I did a good job.
Yeah.
And from there, I built out the wine program, and I went, I think 3 years ago for our first Spectator Award. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine said, this list is really great. You should do that. And I said, I never considered. I worked in restaurants. I was never a director of anything. And I built out that list, and since then I've gotten 3 spectators consecutively, and I anticipate that we will grow that indefinitely. So
I had a look at the website before I came, and it's quite something. I know that you're also behind the website as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So looking just at the awards section, which continues to grow, we've got, as you say, a Wine Spectator for 2022, 23, 24. Then, of course, not only the wine awards, which, of course, as we said, are just as important as the food as well. You've got Restaurant of the Year. And, of course, more recently, just to add to all of these accolades, as if it wasn't enough, the New York Times, still revered in this country in many, many ways, released their list of what they called our 50 favorite restaurants in America right now. And guess what? Yes, the Shipwrights Daughter is on there, but the only restaurant in Connecticut. So talk to us about that, David.
Yeah, there's probably a few more that should be on that list, I think, but we were blown away by that. They came in right after the James Beard Awards, and I was so proud of my staff because we're pretty good about knowing who's coming to the restaurant. We take a look at the reservations pretty closely, and they did not try to hide who they were. It was like Patrick at NewYorkTimes.com was the reservation or something to that effect.
There's really no point, is there, when you're that famous trying to hide yourself, because you're just going to notice.
We didn't, because we were so busy after James Beard Awards that we didn't notice.
I put it down to tiredness.
Yeah, so we were very slammed, and I was really elated that they had such a good time, or especially when they weren't identified and we didn't do anything special for them. They just had a regular experience here, and they were blown away enough to include us in the list. So I was super proud of my staff for that and just honored to be included.
Both of you, of course, have got quite long histories in the profession, dating back quite a number of years, but New York appears in both, obviously, of your biography. Just quickly tell us how you both found each other, because it's always nice to find out a little bit about that.
We found each other in the restaurant business, actually, but in a weird way. I worked at Robe Restaurant for a long time. I was executive chef of a couple places in the West Village, and I got asked to open a restaurant in the West Village Cafe Clover. And so I had this downtime of basically waiting for it to be built. I was getting paid already, but I couldn't really work, which is amazing as a chef. It's like the one time you get to relax in life. And so someone told me, I just moved to the East Village. You got to go to this restaurant, Lavagna. It's a great Italian place. Just check it out. So I went one night and I sat at the bar, and Kathleen worked there. And so she was like a server / bartender, and she served that night. And I just found myself there every Sunday thereafter. And I think I ate the same thing every time. It was my favorite thing on the menu. It was like the rabbit pappardelle with olives is what brought us together. And we just got to know each other. And eventually I got up the courage to ask her out. That's how it happened.
It was very funny for a long time. So I worked at Lavagna, like you say, which is an incredible restaurant, but also the wine program. That's where I really cut my teeth in the industry. It was there and learning from my boss there. And I remember you used to come on Saturday nights and Sunday nights, and if chef, they don't go out on those days because they're all working. So when you told me that you were a chef, I gave you such a hard time. I said, there are better lies to tell.
She thought I was a line cook and I was pretending to be a chef.
I can see why you were a little bit suspicious. Just like you said, if you know that good quality chefs are actually busy that day, and this one wasn't, and it was just like kept popping in every now and again. But of course, the fate brought you together. You got married. You have 2 children. You're both very busy people. 2019, I believe, is when you came here to Mystic.
Yes, that's right.
And obviously the journey here in Connecticut started. One thing I want to talk to you about, both of you, is obviously the mission. Now, as we said, David, you're a partner here at the Shipwrights Daughter. I'm just going to read something straight off the website because I found it quite profound, and it is obviously a very big deal to all of you here. And it says, our mission, sustainability that goes deeper than our food, and that we are committed to supporting our community and the culinary industry by embracing sustainability as a cornerstone principle. Why is that so important?
It's something that obviously we've always been focused on sustainability on the food side and supporting the fishermen and local seafood and sustainable species. And that's very important in its own right. It really became apparent during the pandemic. This industry went through a crisis where a lot of people left it. It just became apparent that it was unsustainable, just to use the word, that the job was too hard. It was too demanding. The conditions were not good enough, especially in the kitchens. And so many people left that we realized that we needed to just have a model that was really fall back on the definition of sustainability, something that can be done for a long period of time without damaging the environment. And I wanted people to have careers in the restaurant business that they could keep doing. And it wasn't wearing them out and burning them out and affecting their mental health. So we just started changing things to make that happen.
Kathleen, how do you juggle? Because like we said, you're both professionals. This is an industry which, as David just said, does have a lot of burnout if you're not careful. You've got children as well. How do you balance all of it? Because it's almost like a 24/7. If you're not careful, it can take you over.
Definitely. And I think that's something that I had seen in my experience in the industry for over 15 years is people falling through the cracks. Many restaurant workers don't have health insurance or any of the things that come with retirement plans. That's really important if you want to keep your staff staff and if you want to keep a career path for them. I don't see, definitely for myself or anyone that works here, this is not a pass-through job that you get to another job from. This is a real career. And supporting people, and that can mean working 5 days a week for us, for example. We try to keep our staff to 4 days a week because it's so intense here, it's so busy, that we want to make sure that people have their rest, that they're being taken care of. And as far as my family goes, we talk all the time about things at the restaurant are really crazy, but I think this weekend we need to take a step back and take care of our family and being mindful of where we're sitting in that balance. And it's tricky, but if you don't talk about it, I think all the time, it's very easy to lose yourself in that hustle and that drive and that motivation to do better.
Ever since the award was obviously announced earlier this year in 2024, how have things changed here at the restaurant? Because people do like to say, oh, we've got one of these restaurants here and I'm going to go. Did it get super busy straight after that?
It got super busy straight after that. I think it got almost doubly busy in June and July, and this was an incredible year. We were very lucky that we were going into the awards. I was actually overstaffed and I was worried about our payroll. And I was like, let me just wait, see what happens in Chicago. And luckily we did retain all of that staff and we were able to just deal with it and did very well. And we're able to keep our standards, but it was an avalanche and it's still going.
Let's talk about the food, because obviously we would be remiss if we didn't at least discuss it. Before we get to that though, you said in your speech at the James Beard Awards that, you work and live in a small town in Connecticut where lobster and clams are the things that people like to eat. And you're serving fish that some people have never heard of. Talk to us about that, because that's a very interesting statement. But looking at the menu, I can see stuff on there that I recognize. But how do you get people to eat it?
We trick them. At first we tricked them, and now people just know us for this. I always tell the sea robin story when we first put sea robin on the menu. And sea robin is probably my favorite fish to eat, actually. But it's always been thought of as a garbage fish. You catch it when you're fishing for other things, and there's no market for it. So I've always wanted it. We finally got it. I was so excited. I put it on the menu. We also had sea bass on the menu that night. And of course, nobody ordered the sea robin. Everyone ordered the sea bass. So the next day, we just took the sea bass off and we only had the sea robin. And people ate it and they loved it and they started coming back for it. And now if I put sea robin on the menu, I sell out. And I think the real key that I always tell chefs is don't be afraid to challenge your guests. They're here, they're in the restaurant, they're going to eat what you are serving. And you have that one chance. As long as it's really good, now you've just changed them over. And it really, for our guests and our front of the house staff, embraced it so much because people are extra excited when they get to eat something that they didn't come for, and it blows them away. It doubles their experience.
I'm looking at a copy of the menu, which I printed off the website actually this morning before I came to the interview, and an amazing menu. I will just freely admit I'm a complete foodie, so I love all of this stuff anyway. Limpets, not something on a menu. Fluke, a fish, again, not something that you see on most menus. These are, very different things for people to try. But it's important, I suppose. I mean, one of your key things is your term yourself as a tied-to-table restaurant. You do serve meat as well. We should just make that clear as well, that there is chicken and there's beef on the menu sort of thing. But a lot of it is very much seafood and fish-based. Was that purposeful?
For sure. The idea here is it really just comes from local. We should all be eating what's here in our communities and closest to where we live. I wouldn't recommend eating this if we live in Idaho, but we live on the Northeast in New England, where one of the best fisheries in the world exists. And these are the fish that are here. These are the fish that they catch locally. So the idea that you would try to eat Pacific salmon here when there's so much fish available doesn't make any sense. So the fish is delicious. Everything that comes from the sea is more or less delicious. So we just need to put it out there. Slipper limpets, everyone that tries them loves them. And they're so bountiful and they're so available and sustainable. Should eat more of them.
And Kathleen, when it comes obviously to the wine as well, obviously that's an important, like we said, it is a very important part of a meal, especially if you do like your wine. So being able to pair these, that's a challenge in itself, because you can't just pair any old wine with a limpet or with fluke.
Oh, yeah. We try to keep a good balance of things that push the envelope for people who are looking for something very unique. I know we were carrying Frank Cornelissen, things that are almost experimental. Also getting those time-honored classics, because my taste isn't necessarily what is always the gold standard for everybody. And I think recognizing that and pairing something to somebody's personal preference and really asking those questions and getting in on that and having a shared experience with your guest and communicating what is important to them and what they like. Because at the end of the day, I'm not drinking this wine. It matters what the customer likes. It matters what the guests like. So we try to really offer something for everybody and be mindful of what we have for food. And when we select wines that are on the list, being aware of what goes well with David's food, but also what I like, what customers like, and everything in between.
Also, I suppose you have to be aware and deal with, and every industry has this, is what's trending. To a certain degree, you don't want to be slaves of a trend, but also by the other token, people, they expect it.
For example, natural wine is a very trendy thing. And I think being very selective about what you choose. I am a big stickler for well-made wines. Natural wine is lovely, but if it's going bad in the bottle, it's not worth my time and it's not something I want to give my customers. I want to make sure that every bottle that comes in here is of sound quality. So really vetting everything is very important in that process, whether it's trendy or not. There are wines that are been made for over 300 years that they make it the same way. Like I'm thinking of Lopez de Heredia. They've been making that same wine for 300 years. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there's something to be valued in that kind of bottle as well.
Getting back to the whole sustainability aspect as well, just recently, David, you along with other top chefs in the area were part of what was called Hope in the Water, which is a PBS series. Talk to us about that. Why was that important for you?
This is a series, a docuseries that was made by Fed by Blue and Jen Bushman, along with a host of others. And it's really, for me, one of the first, you're seeing some more now, one of the first mainstream looks at a lot of the grassroots sustainability efforts that are happening around the world and around the country. I know Jen from the sustainability world, so as soon as I saw it coming out, I reached out to her to see what can we do to support this locally? And she's doing these events all around the country to support the documentary. And I think it's such a big opportunity to bring the message of sustainability that's in the community, but not out in the mainstream, to just bring it to the forefront. And we just wanted to get together and take the opportunity to bring all the great chefs from the area that are doing this work, also get them all in one room and have a big party and celebrate what we're doing.
Now, another thing that we should mention as well is we do have another very famous chef in the area filming a TV series at one of the local casinos. Gordon Ramsay is here filming Hell's Kitchen. He also came here and ate at the restaurant. Talk to us about that.
He was great. His crew came in a bunch of times before, and I kept saying, when's Gordon coming? I'm up, guys. And they're like, he'll be here at some point. Don't worry. And we've told him about it. And he did come in, and he was super gracious. I went and chatted with him. He insisted on coming into the kitchen and taking photos with all the chefs. I had some interns too, who completely blew their minds. It was a really great night. And then he loved the restaurant, and he actually had us on. I was a judge in one of the seasons, so I'll be appearing on Hell's Kitchen in season 24, I believe. So we're super excited. It was great to have him in town.
He did a little bit of a tour around some of the restaurants here as well, because Shipwrights Daughter obviously is fabulous. There are other great restaurants here as well. You share obviously the love of food in this very great little tourist town. What does it mean to appear on something like that as well? Because it's fun, but there is a serious side to it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. It was really fun to be on the show and to see how that kind of works. And also for me, what was really cool was the other chefs that were judges, some real sort of heavy hitters. I don't want to reveal the surprise, but guys who have been doing this for a long time and have these really storied careers. Some people who I used to watch on TV as a kid were there. And I thought that was amazing just to see real pros do it.
And Kathleen, how did you feel when Gordon eventually did come through the door here?
Oh, he was so lovely and so very gracious. It's funny because he has this kind of reputation as being a little tough, but I found in working with him when we were backstage at filming at Hell's Kitchen at Foxwoods, he made and I know he had just gotten in a pretty serious bike accident. And so for him to come out and not take for granted the people who are there supporting him, I thought that was over the top. So generous, so gracious.
I think, Gordon, as a fellow Brit, I think he is incredible, and I think he's probably a bit of a big softie, so puts on a bit of a facade, but Gordon Ramsay, great person. We're going to round this interview out with a very obvious question. What's the next 5-year plan? Where do you go from here? You've hit a lot of so many major milestones in the short period that you've been open. I don't think that's exploding that too much by saying that you really have hit the ground running and then some. So where do you go from here?
It's hard to say. It's been such a dynamic year, and the stuff that have And the dominoes that have fallen have been so tremendous. I don't know where we can really go from here, but we have plans for expansion. We're working on a new restaurant concept in town that hopefully will open next year. That's not really ready to be released into the wild yet, but it's definitely in the works. We're also working on a book at the moment, or at least a proposal for a book that's out there in the world. We'd love to have a sustainable seafood book on the market, just to spread the word of what we're doing. And then the future is bright. We have a very aggressive ownership group here that wants to expand the business. So I think we'll see more of us in the future.
And, and Kathleen, how are you going to keep him under control? Because obviously the more rewards he gets, he'll become intolerable, surely.
Oh my gosh, we get along like a house on fire for this. It's one of the great things I think about working with David is that one of us will have an idea and we'll say, that's great, I'll help with this, and back and forth. But like we can get in over our heads
For
sometimes.
Sure.
But
yeah, we have the idea, then she sells it and she's, oh, it's all done. And I'm like, what do you mean it's done? I'm gonna have to do it.
But the future is very bright, and I can't wait to see. There's a lot of irons in the fire right now, and see which ones shake out.
David and Kathleen Standridge of the Shipwrights Daughter, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to talk to us here on Connecticut East this week, and continued success to both of you.
Thanks for having us on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you haven't visited the Shipwrights Daughter yet and are looking to savor David's award-winning dishes and Kathleen's award-winning wines, then head over to their website at shipwrightsdaughter.com. Connecticut East this week is made possible by Media Here and Now is a full-service content creation agency based in Eastern Connecticut and producing video, audio, podcasts and digital content for social media, online and broadcast use for all types of businesses, organizations and nonprofits. If you need a new company video or radio advert or want to start your own podcast, then get in contact and see how we can help you at mediahereandnow.com. And
SCAD, the Southeastern Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, is looking for licensed clinicians and is offering the top benefits packages in the state. Go to licensedclinicians.org to learn more. That's licensedclinicians.org.
Okay, antibodies, huddle up. We're a great team, but the flu is dominating. The good news is the human we're protecting just got his flu shot. That means all of us antibodies have strong new gear that will help us fight and defend against the flu. We must win so that our human can stay healthy and help protect the people he cares about most.
Let's work as a team to defend against the flu. Gear up with a flu shot to help protect yourself and others and reduce your risk of being sick or hospitalized with the flu. Learn more at getmyflushot.org. Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Time now for a look at other stories making the headlines this week. Registered nurses at Bacchus Hospital in Norwich have filed an injunction in New London's Superior Court to stop hospital administrators from violating a state ban on mandatory overtime. The union representing the nurses is citing a violation of Connecticut general statutes that came into law earlier this year. Heather Brouth is one of the affected registered nurses at the hospital and also a treasurer of the local union, and says the legislator and the hospital agreed to the new law and the working hours it covers.
It's an unsafe situation, and they want hospitals to stop mandating their nurses to work more than 12-hour shifts. In the last few months, Bacchus Hospital has continued to mandate their nurses over 12 hours, in particular in their surgical services departments. And because these areas are areas of the hospital where patients are coming in potentially needing emergency surgery, they need to staff those areas, but they have not come up with any kind of a comprehensive staffing plan.
Lawyers for the nurses say they hope to have a decision from the courts soon, but in the meantime, nurses say they will continue to inform the hospital that they are breaking the law, but will continue to provide patient cover and nursing services. Eric Chester is with the law firm Ferguson Doyle and Chester, who are representing the nurses, and said they have spoken to the hospital on several occasions to try and resolve the matter without success.
I think going to court was probably the most expedient way to get this resolved. The Department of Public Health often oversees issues related to this. Because this is an issue relating around overtime, that can often be overseen by the Department of Labor. But those two agencies involve administrative procedures, which often can take a long time. This is an issue about patient safety and also the safety of the nurses and their working conditions. So we felt it was important to try to get a remedy quickly.
In a statement, Harvard Hospital, who owns Bacchus Hospital, said they were surprised and disappointed by the complaints, but didn't comment on on whether they felt they were breaking any state laws. U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal, a member of the Senate Special Committee on Aging, announced recently the Senate passage of legislation that would help lower the costs of life-saving prescription drugs in the country. Blumenthal, along with Republican Senator John Cornyn of Texas, helped craft the Affordable Prescriptions for Patients Act that would stop bad actors in the pharmaceutical industry. Blumenthal said the pharma industry regularly undertakes what it called patent thickets, where a drug of theirs coming to the end of its patent is reapplied over and over again to stop a competitor's drug who are also making a patent request of a generic or similar version coming onto the market.
Drug companies would be prevented from applying for this plethora of new patents that have the effect simply of barring competition. It would limit the number of patent applications that any pharma company could apply for.
Nora Duncan is from AARP Connecticut and said this practice by the pharmaceutical industry affects everyone, especially older Americans who are on one or more prescription medications.
This patent thickening is costing Americans millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's costing the government a lot of money through our Medicare and our Medicaid system. We recently at AARP surveyed members and non-members alike about what some of their biggest concerns are, and 84% of people came back that the high cost of prescription drugs is of a major concern to them and their daily lives and their pocketbook issues that we all can understand.
Blumenthal was urging passage of this new act in the House of Representatives when they return in November. If successful, the new law would lower the cost of 54 drugs available through Medicare, helping to save patients hundreds and even thousands of dollars per day for their drugs. Students and faculty at Eastern Connecticut State University hosted a presentation by the state of Connecticut on its new digital equity plan recently. The plan is a comprehensive strategy designed to address the growing opportunities and challenges of living in society increasingly reliant on digital tools and the skills to use them. Doug Casey is the executive director of the Connecticut Commission for Educational Technology, who created the plan, and said although access to things like the internet are almost universal across the state, rural areas like the Northeast, where Easton is located, are falling behind.
You've got almost 2,000 households in this general region that do not have any kind of internet connection at all. Another almost 10% who only have a cell phone, so there's no home broadband connection at all. 4% that don't have a computer. And if you look at income level by household, wealthier households are 8 times more likely to have a faster internet connection at home than those who are struggling more socioeconomically.
The Digital Equity Plan is an initiative of the Biden administration under the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act of 2021 and covers all 50 states and territories. Casey said a major part of the plan is to close what's called the digital divide in the state.
Promoting digital skills development, the programs that support that, thinking about people who are out in the field and actually helping residents get connected and increase those skills. We are also going to be establishing regional centers of excellence around digital navigation and equipping the people who are doing this work. We're supporting the high-speed broadband rollout, and we want to make sure that residents are super clear about how they can connect to the internet in safe ways that meet their pocketbook.
Initial funding for Connecticut's plan will be around $9 million from the federal government. Casey says that should increase to around $16 million, and they will be looking to either the state or partners or both to help finance the plan and keep it moving forward beyond its initial 5-year timeline. That's all from us for this edition. Do send us your questions and story ideas to the show via our website at connecticut-east.com or Facebook or Twitter at Connecticut East and on Instagram at Connecticut East This Week. And you can listen to the show again on our social platforms, on demand, and by asking your smart speaker to play Connecticut East This Week podcast. And please like, follow, and share on your social media too. I'm Brian Scott Smith. Thank you for listening.